Hello, Oracles. Gosh, I like wearing this color. I got to wear it for Tesla yesterday, and now I get to wear it for the entire market today. What a boom in the day. Kind of expected it after the horrible red day yesterday, but I didn't expect it to be this green. I expected a little green. So it was really nice to see this turnaround. So what can we expect going forward? Well, we've got Amazon, who split 20 to 1 in after hours news. And they're also doing a $10 billion stock buyback. So this is huge. We already heard about Google about a month ago. Now, when it comes to the stock, it's up like 9% after hours. But don't forget, there's about 3 months that we are waiting before we are going to actually get this Amazon split. So similar to what happened with Google, there might be a little bit of a pullback, and we might not see an actual run up to the stock split until about a month prior. So Google's split's going to be beginning of July, so I can anticipate probably beginning of or middle of June for the run-up to start. And with Amazon, it looks like it's going to be the beginning of June, so long as it passes the shareholder vote. And as long as that happens, I would say probably early to mid-May we'll see a real true run-up going for the split. Now, as far as the macro environment goes, we have the CPI data coming out tomorrow. We're expecting a high number. We're expecting high 7%, might actually see 8%, which is pretty darn terrible. But if this is what happens tomorrow, this is expected. You have to remember, what is the number one thing the market does not like? That's uncertainty. So if we get the number that the market is expecting, there's no uncertainty. They knew it. It was already priced in. Going forward to next week's FOMC meeting, we basically know what the Fed is going to do going forward with raising rates. So we may see a little bit of volatility tomorrow morning with uncertainty until we get the number. We may see a little bit of uncertainty going into next week before the FOMC meeting. But if both of these things come out to be what we think they are, we might actually see a rally. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know if it's going to be an actual big rally. But honestly, it comes down to what is left for uncertainty, and the only thing that's left is a Russia-Ukraine situation, which seems to be working itself out. Zelensky has said that he would like to talk to Putin one-on-one, see if they can hash things out. Zelensky has backed down. They don't want to be invited into NATO. They don't want a piece of that. So it seems like that may be simmering down. I don't know. Obviously, the attacks are still going on. Horrible situation over there, but it is still in its works, and it seems to be working itself out, and the uncertainty has kind of been cleared from the market. So we saw that huge rally today, and let's see what happens tomorrow, because again, we are still in this bull pennant, and if we get the number that we're expecting, we might actually get the breakout that we were anticipating. And so with all the uncertainty out of the way, we still have to deal with inflation. Inflation is still a real problem, still something we have to deal with, still something that we are hoping the Fed can get back into line and under control. But with the oil prices coming down, gas prices may come down, and this short-term spike might not lead to the inflation we thought it would lead to if this ends up being very short-term. We still have to figure that one out as the time goes on, but we saw the market really pull back with the oil prices going up, so that's already been priced in. So a lot of things get priced in very quickly with the market, and they usually get overpriced in. So when we see the negative come down, it comes down more than it should. Just like on the other side, when we see euphoric runs, it usually runs more than it should as well. So if you can catch that little bit of a window and gap between where it should be and where it actually goes too far below, that's a great buying opportunity to give yourself a little buffer. So talking about inflation though, inflation's actually a good thing. And the reason inflation is a good thing, and the reason why the Fed likes to keep it between 2 and 3%, is because with inflation, you have that going up, and by having a 2 to 3% inflation, it encourages people to buy today and not wait until tomorrow. Because if they wait until tomorrow, the prices might be higher, so they can get better prices today. So having that 2 to 3% inflation, and it's not steady, it's always fluctuating up and down, but keeping it that way keeps the economy growing. The problem is when you have inflation as high as it is and when it spikes as high as it does, you have a lot of people rushing out today to buy everything that they possibly can because they know the price is going to be much higher tomorrow. When that happens, that causes a demand spike. When the demand spikes higher, that causes inflation to go even higher, especially when we have supply chain issues and supply shortages from, like, for instance, gas and oil from the sanctions we put on Russia. So you couple those two together with higher demand and lower supply, that's going to cause even higher inflation. Eventually, we will hit a point where people can't purchase any more of the goods that they need to. Obviously, gas is a different situation because you got to keep on buying it. But when it comes to, like retail products, groceries, things like that, there's only so much you can store. You can store as much as you need. You don't need that much. And eventually we'll hit a point where the prices will come down and everybody has stockpiled so much stuff that we're going to see a deflationary pressure, which is what Kathy Wood had talked about previously. And so many people have so many things that they're going to stop buying. Now there is no demand for the product that is now being supplied more readily because the supply chain issues have been resolved. And now we see deflation coming down. Whether we're actually going to see a real true deflation, I don't know. We have to wait to see how it's going to play out. I've been in retail for over a decade now, and I know full well that when prices go up, they never ever come back to where they started. It just doesn't happen that way. Wish it did, but it doesn't. And of course, most people's pay does not go up to compensate for that, and your payroll is usually lagging behind the inflation itself. So whether we balance out or not has yet to be seen, but we will see the inflation hit a point where it does come back down. Just don't know when that's going to be. If we just look at inflation as year-over-year data, we know that last year it was around the May's reading for April that inflation really started to spike. So we might actually see a leveling off at that point if oil prices continue to come down. If they come down, then we shouldn't see that much of a lagging difference because there'll be a short-term spike when it comes to fuel and shipping costs. So that may hit a little bit in May, but it might be over the summertime that we do see inflation start to come down, at least on a year-over-year basis. More importantly, we would need to check month-over-month basis and make sure that that is also still staying in line, because month-over-month is a better indicator to see where we're progressing and transitioning to going forward based off of the current numbers. And so we're never going to use the word transitory because clearly that was not a reality when it came to inflation. But I do think we're going to hit a point with inflation where it's going to hit a stop. And whether it's the Fed raising rates that brings it down, whether it's a recession that brings it down, whether it's just supply and demand bringing it down, or a combination of the three, I think inflation is obviously going to come back down probably towards the fall is my guess. I'm guessing because it's going to be midterm election time, all of a sudden inflation's going to come down so the Democrats can say, look at what we've done. We've brought inflation down. And I don't play the political game. I don't like either side. But knowing where we're at and knowing how the current view of the Democratic Party is right now, that might be something they are playing in their favor to bring it down and utilize that as a way to kind of float their own boat to get some votes. And so with all of the uncertainty leaving the market, with inflation being high, but potentially us seeing it coming down because the Fed has a plan to take care of that, seeing Amazon and Google setting themselves up for splits during a time when the economy is booming, but inflation is super high, and now Tesla being the largest mega cap price-wise in the stock market right now, will we see a Tesla split over the summer? It's something that, I've talked about it. I've toyed about it coming out in November after the election. But then looking at when they did it last time, maybe we do see a summer split in Tesla. Don't know. I'll talk about it on the Tesla video a little bit. I don't want to dive too far into it because we've talked about a split many a time on here, and it'll happen when it happens. We know it's going to happen. But just something to think about, knowing that these companies are okay with splitting their stock during these times, leads me to believe that we're heading towards some better times and potentially maybe a rally coming over the summer at some point, which would be great considering the first 2 months of this year have not been pretty for the market, especially tech stocks. So let me know your thoughts about inflation. Where do you think we're going to hit for our CPI reading tomorrow? And do you think that it's really going to affect the market much? Do you think we're going to continue this rally? And do you own Amazon stock? I own a very little bit of it. I might actually start to add a little bit in a couple of months, about a month ahead of the split, just to get a little bit in there. But let me know if you have any or if you're looking to add some. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all of the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. Thank you so much. Have a great one.